Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our 4th live broadcast. Hope everybody is having a great new year. I apologize in advance. My family and I all have colds, and we're all coughing and stuffed up, and it's just been a wonderful start for the new year. We're going to get going in just a couple minutes here. Right now, everybody, everything that you're seeing right now is not actually a video. This is all being rendered in real time using the camera script, which I'll be showing you how to use a little bit later today. It is a really easy to use, really cool feature that's been included this whole time. It's very cool, very fun to use. You can do a lot of cool shots with it. That's how we've done a lot of our promotional videos. So we'll be showing you guys how to use that a little bit later on. We'll be talking a little bit more about how to make these wooden coaster supports that you see. A little bit more about support structures in general. I'll show you a little bit more about how to set up switches and transfer tracks and things like that. We'll be showing all kinds of cool stuff. So we'll be showing a little bit more here. Thank you very much, Free the Bear. We're going to get through here. You may end up hearing some guest appearances from my son in the background who's having some breakfast and letting everybody know that he is here, hungry and wanting some breakfast. He's also suffering the cold too. Fever finally broke this morning. It was kind of a rough night for everybody though. He's got a cough and a wheeze, and it's just, it's been a lot of fun for everybody. So we'll be showing everybody how to do a number of different things here. Everybody should have a chance to have joined up and enjoy the cool little opening loop of the camera script that I've got set up here. We'll start diving into learning more about how to use all the various functions of No Limits. Close that out. So we're going to head back into our editor here. Set up a park for us to work on recently, so I'm going to open back up our learning park. I'll set a couple things up for that so that we can, we'll be able to do a little bit more with it and show you how to use the learning part, how to use the supports in here, a few other cool things about it. Just waiting for it to load up here. You'll see our familiar steel coaster in the background that we started on. But more importantly than that, a few other things I wanted to discuss with everybody to get going here. I'm going to use this little section of track right here. I'll switch over to it in just a moment, which we do that by going to the coaster tab. Coaster properties. This is going to be the style demo coaster. I'm using this for a few key purposes for now. One thing I wanted to show off to everybody was the different styles that you can do on the style menu. There's a lot of different options there that are useful in various different purposes. So we'll get rid of the combs right now just so that you can see the wireframe of the track. This is Intamin track. I've chosen the rocket coaster style so that I can show you a few different options with it. When I freeze it, you'll see that it started off as default 3-pipe track is what we call this. To make it easy to see all the various parts, I've chosen to choose the rails are red, cross ties are yellow, and the main spine is blue, which when you take a look at the coaster properties and you look at colors, there we are. Rails red, cross ties yellow, main spine blue. Okay. So we're going to show a few different things here. There's a lot of different options that are available in the style menu that you can use to really customize the look of the track. Now we've done a lot of work to make sure that we offer the different styles that are available based on the real life type of coaster. So depending on what coaster style you're looking at, there's a lot of different options, or there's sometimes very few options. The Intamin Rocket Coaster does offer a whole bunch of different styles, so I'll go ahead and double click on a plain section of track here. When you double click on a plain section of track, you end up going straight to the style segment settings, where you have a number of different options here, including the ability to add individual color to any of the main colors here for just that one particular section of track. Of course, you can add left and right catwalks as we showed previously, make them transparent. You can make the whole section of track invisible, which is kind of fun to do. So just to demonstrate that, of course, I'll take that one, make it invisible there. And we'll go over here. Now down here, we'll see a number of different options, including different tunnel options, which I discussed in a previous webinar. And then we have spine type. Now this is where you're going to see a whole bunch of different options available to you. Right now, this is the standard 3-tube track that we just showed, which is one of the options on the Intamin style track, especially on the rocket coaster. That's fine for that one. Next section, we're going to go ahead and make this 4-tube track so you can see the difference there. This is our invisible section of track, which will disappear when we get there. We'll take this section. I'm going to make it 2-tube track with diagonals. I'm going to make this section 2-tube track without diagonals. And I got 2 sections left, which is good. because I have 2 sections left to show you guys. Spine type is going to be modern single spine and modern double spine. So that's going to have all of the options of coasters in there. Now you see the wireframe does represent what we're looking at. You can see that this is the 3-pipe track. We've got the 4-pipe track here. This is the invisible section. It's still 3-pipe track technically, but it's going to disappear when we choose it. We have our 2-pipe track. And this is also 2-pipe track. One of these is going to have the diagonals. Diagonals are not represented in wireframe. That's okay. We got our modern steel track and our modern steel double spine track. So let's go ahead and render all that out, see what it looks like. I'm going to freeze the coaster. And there we are. So you can see all the options have shown up there. You can see that we have our 3-pipe track as before, 4-pipe track. There's our invisible section of track there. We've got our 2-pipe track with diagonals, meaning the diagonals between each of the cross ties like that. We've got our 2-pipe track without the diagonals. And then here we have the modern single spine track and double spine track, which are most notably seen on coasters like Formula Rossa and I-305 or Intimidator 305. It's definitely Intamin's new way of going about things. Now there's one other interesting thing to point out about when you're using these style markers is that whenever you insert a style marker along the way, it's actually going to create it's automatically going to create a segment end and start. So some people that really like to customize and get into the way that everything looks, you can place style markers without changing the style from track to track or from segment to segment. And when you do that, you're going to end up with a track connector here. We automatically place track connectors every so often along the track, which if I fly back over to our B&M coaster over here, you're going to see that we've automatically included a number of track connectors all the way through that just are kind of randomly spaced along there. So you can see there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, and so on and so forth. And that certainly is a cool way to go. Let's see, where did I put that little learning section of track there? There it is. Now, if you wanted to place each of those track connectors by hand, you certainly could. All you have to do is just drop a style marker every point along where you want to have that this track connector like that, and it will go ahead and make the track connectors. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if people are really trying to go for a specific recreation or a specific look, or add that extra degree of realism, they can place the track connectors in such a way that each track segment would be the size and shape of what could fit on a truck, which is the main reason why you see a lot of track connectors like that and a lot of flanges along the sport tubes, something we'll discuss a little bit later. All of these parts have to get shipped over to the construction site. So when it finally is bolted together, of course, it's one solid unit of track, big giant columns that create one solid support structure. But obviously they can't ship those fully assembled structures out to the park. So they have to fit all of those pieces into the back of a truck, on a truck bed, or in a shipping container. As a result, there's just only so much space that you can fill up there before you have to make it, you have to have a different segment of track. So they have to calculate how much or how big each section of track can be and still actually be shipped out to the site. The more the track twists and curves, the harder it is to fit in that rectangular space that's the back of a truck. So the more it's going to curve, upward and downward really sharply, like the tops of loops, top of lift hills, the more you're going to see interesting placement for the various track segments. So next time you're at an amusement park, take a look at the support columns, and you can just kind of visualize that they're only so big that you can see the flanges are built in such a way that when you take all those side pieces off, they lie flat and they can fit on the back of a truck. All right, enough Coaster Nerd 101 there. So this shows the different styles that you have available here on the Intamin Rocket Coaster track. What we're going to do now is we're going to change things up a little bit and show you some additional styles that we can do here. So I'm going to unfreeze that, and what I'm going to do also, I'm going to make this segment visible again, and I think we all get the point of that. And now I'm going to change the coaster type. So we're going to change from there, we're going to move over to any of the twisted coasters, so just twisted sit-down coaster will be fine. There we go. So that reset, of course, all of our various style options, but there's still some other style options that we can show you guys here. For one thing, we're going to be showing a few different options here. We have, for spine types, for our B&M box track, they do a different way to handle heavy stress sections of track. And the way that we do that is that the spine, the backbone gets thicker or deeper in the sections of track that are either very high stress or that need to span a larger section of track or space between supports. So the way that you handle that inside of No Limits is that you have a choice here of spine type for that one. We have standard box, medium box, large box, and then I-beam, which is what's used for lift hill sections. So we'll leave that one standard box for now. We'll change this one over to a medium box, which is fine. We'll go over here and make this a large box. We'll have you go back to a standard box. And we'll have you go to an I-beam, which is good. It's remembering some of the choices from previously. And then back to some normal sections there. And actually, I'll show two other things as we get to the end there. So, yeah, my son over there is trying to get my attention. Hey, buddy. All right, so let's see what we have here. We're going to show for these sections, we're going to change the, go back to a standard box there. Go back to a standard box here. Standard box there. I'm going to add one more style setting for, you'll see why in just a second here. Get a style separator there. There we go. Move those around a bit. Okay, so what we're going to do here, spine color scheme right now, we have plain in place for all these ones, which is fine. The last two segments here, we're going to you can change to the top accented. Actually, I'm going to go with the show you the different spine accent colors that we can do here. Top accented, so that left to right is going to be all three of the options. This is a unique option specific for B&M type of tracks. The accent colors are not available on any of the tube ones, and this is again reflecting real life. We do know that there is a new one available right now on that has shown up on Valveran and has shown up on Fury 325. Yes, we know about it. We haven't had a chance to add it in there, but it's certainly one of the many things on our multitude of things to add list. All right, so we're going to go ahead and freeze this track section in place here and show all the various options. So there we go. And actually, to better illustrate what we're working on here, let me do a couple of changes because that didn't really show you what the everything looks like. I'm going to make everything longer and more drawn out. All right, just freeze that again. Okay, so now we have different sections, and you can see how there's track segments there. We get it automatically. All right, so we started off with our standard section of track. This is our standard B&M box beam, right? We go over here to the medium box beam. You can see it gradually gets a bit thicker until this point, and now it's the thicker medium box beam there. And then from there we transitioned, actually we stayed normal after that. So it went from here, this is when it was the full thickness. This is the border to the next section there. And then from there we got to the thickest section type right here. This is the large box. So this, you can see the box is actually really, really, really gigantic. This would be for a very high speed, high stress area where there's going to be a whole lot of things going on. Then after that we drop back down to the normal section of track again. And then if you look really closely, one of these, there it is. So here's the I-beam section. This is where it dips down like it does in stations and lift. Actually, this is going to be what it looks like on this particular track style for things like brakes and friction tires. And the purpose of this is that often when B&M has a section of brakes and a section of friction tires and things like that, after the brakes are done, they keep this kind of track style going, and they don't just drop right back up to the main normal spine, then drop back down again, because that would look a little bit weird. So this way you can keep the look of the sections that have brakes and tires in them without actually having brakes and tires in them. Dropping back up to our normal spine, here we have our top accented. You can see that there's this stripe all the way along the top. The spine is still the spine color, but the top has picked up the cross tie color. That is the top accented option. Then we have the top and bottom accented option. Again, we have that stripe on top, and we see on the bottom as well, it has picked up the spine color, or the tie color as well. And then we have the stripe color. This is going to be like Patriot, where we've got a stripe right down the side of the color that is this is the main spine color, and then of course the cross tie color is being carried for the top and bottom accent. So that way you can do colors like on Patriot, where you have a stripe all the way down the side of it. These are available for you to customize and use anytime you want as you see fit. So pretty simple to use right there. Lots of different things can be done with style settings like this. It's pretty nice. You can really customize the look of your coaster. One more thing I'm going to show you guys here. So we're going to take all of these sections at the same time, by the way, which you can do. You can select all the sections. You can bring up the style settings, and you can set them all the exact same right away. So I'm going to change to something different, change to standard box, and I'm going to change make sure that that's out of there and there. Now you should see that each section has gone back to the exact same settings. And when you freeze it, I've taken all those sections of track and now they're uniform again. There you go. Which is good because the next thing I wanted to show you guys is going to be a new feature that was added fairly recently for cross-tie spacing. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to start with down here we have tie spacing options. This is again a feature that's added to help you with the visual style of what you're working on. The further apart or closer together cross ties that you want to set them, that comes down again to stress and speed for how fast the coaster is going and how much the forces that are going on at the particular point. Coaster companies, they're trying not to use more steel than they need to because steel is expensive. One of the ways to cut down the cost of steel is to make sure you only need to use as much as necessary depending on the stress level at various points. When the stress level is very low on straight track where it's not going that fast, the cross ties are very far apart. Or even in some twisting inversions where again it's not going that fast, the cross ties can be kind of further apart. In high stress areas where the weight and force of the train is likely to try and deform the rails over time, you may need the extra support of more dense cross ties. This is again something you can take a look at when you go to a local amusement park. You can take a look and see how the cross tie spacing varies throughout the coaster. Now in real life, of course, they'll place every single cross tie exactly where it needs to be. And they will be very specific and precise about it. Here, the cross tie spacing is handled automatically to keep them uniform distance, but you can set up a spacing option. So I'm going to start by just going the difference here from lowest stress. We're going to go to the lower stress, and I'm going to change the rail color here so you can just see the difference in each section. We're going to go to low stress. And we're going to go to normal, which is good. And I'll change the rail color again here so you can see. Let's make it easy for us to tell exactly which sections are where. And you can see when I do this, it also does change the tie spacing more. So we're going to go to high stress on that one. And this is going to be the highest stress and one more custom color track. There you go. And now you can see that the cross ties are much closer together here than they are here, than they are there, further apart, and the furthest apart. Now our cross ties do automatically change their spacing, so it's not even uniform distance from across the entire segment. Watch as I slowly make the segment longer. You can see that this ties automatically space further apart or get closer together, and extra ties appear automatically. The engine is doing a lot of things to try and make the cross tie spacing uniform throughout however long the segment is. So even with the high and low density, you're still not going to get an exact precise spacing because we are trying to make things nice and even in the way that they look. So we'll go ahead and freeze that, and you can see what it looks like in there, and you can see that here we are, very far apart. Appropriate for stations and low stress areas where it's just not going to be that big of a deal. Getting closer together again, even closer, even denser, and then the most dense of all. So these options with cross tie spacing are available on every single coaster style, so you can adjust them to your heart's content depending on the look you'd like to go for. It's part of a lot of the various features that are available there. Alright, the next thing I want to show you guys is going to be a little bit more about supports, because there were some more features that were showing on the supports that you guys didn't have a chance to see. And to properly demonstrate some of this, I need to do a little bit more with my track here, so I'm going to add a couple of rolls just to show a couple of specific types of supports. Bear with me just a moment while I get this set up. Strict. Remember, I gotta add my stricts in place, otherwise you get that wobble effect, which doesn't look good. And the end caps can be rolled as well. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I do want the roll panel though. Yeah, the end pieces can be rolled upside down as well, but eventually you're going to connect those together, so it's not as big of a deal. Okay, and I'm going to reset everything to... Actually, the tie spacing won't matter for what I'm going to demonstrate here. So I'm going to add a couple of the prefab supports here just to show off a few things about them. Especially the B&M, we have a huge library of prefab supports, which is very nice. So we'll go ahead and start off with the twisted single support. We'll get one of those in place. By the way, you'll notice that we have added a whole bunch of neat little icons here so you can see exactly what editing mode you're in when you're in it. It's a very helpful little visual tool so you know what you're up to, rather than having a bunch of plain mouse cursors around. Good, put those in place. Now the reason I'm adding all of these, you'll see in a moment, is going to be for a few different things. So twisted 90 inward. I want a twisted 90-degree outward. Another one there, twisted 180. Yep. And then we're going to put in, I think I have an arch. There we go. Okay. Back the roll up a little bit here. Allow each of these supports to breathe a little bit. Okay. And then to demonstrate a few other things in here. So you notice that some of these structures have all these little weird things hanging off the top. Some of you may have noticed, and I'll put a couple of rail connectors in here just specifically to show what these things are, what I'm talking about here. Put a couple vertical ones, a couple of horizontal ones. Okay. Now the connection styles, there's a few different options that are here, especially when it comes to the B&Ms. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Purple Chicken, I do see your question about save support structure. You're probably asking to see if we can save it as a kind of a prefab element to move it into, save it and move it into another park or project. That particular part of it, there's a way you can do that right now, actually, if you want to have a particular support structure from one park and move it to another park. There's a couple of ways to do it. One, first of all, it's going to be part of a coaster, so save that support structure as part of the coaster. Two, go to the new park you want it in, import that coaster, which could just be as simple as a particular support structure at that point. That will move it into the new park. Once it's in the new park, if you need to use that support structure over and over again, you can select the whole support structure, hit the button for define, copy, and then paste it where you need it. So that's kind of a way that you can do that, even though we don't have a way to specifically save a preset support structure for you to go over and over again. These prefab support structures that you see here, they have been built ahead of time. They're all kind of hard-coded because they're doing a whole bunch of things for you ahead of time. So these are a little bit complicated, and they're not as something that everybody could just easily throw together and create as part of a prefab support thing. We don't have anything in place for that right now. So, but we did try to cover the majority of options that you can use on a whole bunch of different scenarios. All right, so moving on to what I'm going to show you guys here. So this particular support connector here, current connection style is track default. Let's run the twisted style. We're going to go with the twisted straight down. Change this next one over here to a twisted horizontal. And you can see you got all these little handles sticking out, which look kind of weird, right? And I want to get one more rail connector here so you can see it. Notice when I added this one, it added whatever my last selection was here, which is kind of a handy thing. You know that? That's not going to help us right now, so. Alright, so that's what we're going to need. Now the reason why I'm showing this particular one here, and I'll put one of the, change this one over here, there we go. To twisted vertical. Okay, so the main reason why I'm bringing these guys up here is that you see that it has all of these extra little handles here, which kind of look a little bit weird. Like, what are they there for? Why are there these things that are sticking out to the side? What is the purpose of those? Well, these are extra little anchor points that you can attach things to. Why does that become important? Well, this is when you want to start taking a look at all of the prefab supports. We'll go ahead and freeze the track as it is, so you can see a few things that have popped up. Okay, so here's the basic supports that are sticking straight down. Here is the one that's facing with the inward 90-degree support and the outward 90-degree support. Then we have the inverted support here, and we have the arch support. A bunch of handy things. Now B&M and a whole bunch of manufacturers, often the supports will point either straight down, straight to the left or right, or straight vertical. That's true for number styles. A lot of other companies also, Intamin, Gerstlauer, Mack, they will instead point off exactly perpendicular from the track, and they're built from there. This is going to be pertaining to styles like this, where the track connector is always going to be pointing up, pointing to the side, or pointing down. The purpose of all those extra little handles become evident when you're looking at what is being built for you. So let's start off with this guy right here, or this one here. It'll be easiest to demonstrate here on the 90-degree ones. You can see that here's what the 90-degree support connector looked like on its own. So this is what's being delivered for you. You got the angled connector here, you got this flat connection here on top, and a few other pieces that when they're put together with a support tube, they automatically form this connection. This little semicircle here will adjust its size depending on the size of tube. And actually the way you do that is you select the connector itself, and you would change the size preset. For a custom pipe, you can specify the size parameter here. Like say if I go for a 3-foot pipe, which is 36 inch, close that, it has just gotten bigger, and when I freeze it, you'll see that it is now much larger. So this is now built for a 36-inch pipe. These are things that are automatically being done for you when you create a prefab support. This is why they're a little more complicated to build, because they do adjust automatically depending on what you have done. Go ahead and unfreeze. I'm going to take this prefab here, I'm going to change it to the 42-inch size. It's now going to be a lot bigger. When I freeze that, you're going to see all the parts have scaled accordingly. This is why it's good to use the prefabs like that, because they do a lot of things for you and they automatically size themselves. You don't want to break it and atomize it until you're absolutely sure of everything, because you lose the ability to quickly do things like slide it around the track, make changes to the size of it by just going here and dropping down to like a super small size like that, and having everything adjust and scale. Because if you don't do that, you have to change every single piece, the track connector, each of these tubes, and the footers to the new size. So very important to keep it try and keep use the prefabs as much as you can, just as a good time saver until you really want to get into customizing everything. You can't customize it all, but we built this again as a time saver for people. Okay, so going back to why do we have these two little poles sticking out here, which is a little bit weird. Well, if you look at the prefab over here, let's take a look at what happens when I atomize that for you. I'm going to go to supports. I'm going to atomize it, which breaks it into its individual components so that I can't edit the whole thing as one piece. And there you go. Now you see that we have those two little handles sticking out there. You see we have a support tube going through the bottom, and you can see that we've got a flange down there. We've got the beam connector node and all sorts of beams, and the footers are in place. Now the reason I'm showing you this right now is that if I move this footer here, you can see I've now moved it out of alignment for here. That handle gives a nice little anchor point if I wanted to make my own support going from there straight to the ground. And that's the whole purpose of that, is that way it'll connect and you can use it to go through here and go down to the bottom. Now, of course, when I move this out of the way, I've lost the straight down vertical function, but that's why there's two handles. Depending on which side you're there, you have a handle that's going to be at that perfect spot to anchor the beam at and go straight down if you're building it all from scratch. Not as much going on here. You can see that there are a bunch of extra handles here. What are they all used for? Probably can guess what those two are in the middle for, but we have these outer ones. What are they for? Those become evident when you look at these two guys at the end for these two support structures here. This one and this one, and you can kind of see how those handles are being used on these two, right? So I'll go ahead and freeze them so you can see what they look like. There you go. Then you can see that the arch support, of course, goes up, goes all the way across, comes back down again. These are automatically flanging beams. The support connector has been chosen for the correct size to loop around there. For this 90-degree support here, support connector is for the right size. It just goes straight across, connects down here, and automatically flanges goes down there, and then you have an extra support pipe that's just going up to the middle. When we unfreeze those and we break them into their individual components, you're going to see again why we have all those pieces in there. So I'm going to atomize you, I'm going to atomize you. There you go. So you can see that this one is made up of using these two center pieces, kind of like on the vertical 90-degree support column. And the beam is going from stretched from here to a free node over here, where it then goes down to the footer at the bottom. And then a beam node has been placed right here and is heading straight to the bottom of this straight down support. And all that being built for you, and this being set to the correct space or the correct size on its own for this whole support tube. For the arch support, you can see why those external handles that are sticking way out to the side, they're at the exact perfect spacing for that external support. So all that had to be done here, you have a footer down there, a beam drawn up to this particular point, and then you have another beam that's drawn from that point all the way across to this point, and then run down from there to this point down here. So a lot of cool little things that are built in there with extra handles that are specifically useful for this kind of purpose. It's exactly why those handles are there. The prefabs are doing all that for you automatically, so that's why it's rather handy to have them all set like that. So just wanted to show you guys a little bit more about how all the supports work and that kind of stuff. So it's rather kind of cool and handy. So that's all well and good for the steel supports. But we want to do a little bit more for wooden coaster supports, because there's a number of things that you can do there that are a little bit different. Wooden coaster supports can be a lot of work to do, as you can imagine, if you're trying to build them all from scratch. So I started out on a wooden coaster for everybody here, because I wanted to demonstrate a few things about it as I build. Let me switch over to my wooden coaster. There we are. Okay, so I've got this wooden coaster that's currently underway. Now you see, of course, no supports are being drawn yet. The wooden supports are drawn like the steel supports that are made out of a bunch of individual support beams. The key point is that we have a wood coaster support builder that will do all of the heavy lifting for you in terms of building all of those things automatically, which is very handy. There's a few specific properties about it you should be familiar with before you start using it, which can show you how to get the most out of it, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Bear with me here, my perfectionism is getting the best of me as I want to get that out of the ground. Okay. As you're building a wooden coaster track, you're going to see that it's very much like building steel coaster track. You see the wireframe of the track showing up. You can add in the various pieces that you need, and I'm going to switch over here to add some more track. But of course, you notice the one thing that's missing when I build the wooden coaster track like that. And what's missing? The structure. There's absolutely no structure here. I'm just moving this wireframe track, so it really gets tough to show or to kind of understand exactly where all the pieces are going for what I'm creating. And that can become an issue. You know, I certainly want to be able to see what the structure is going to look like as I place it in place. So the best way to handle that is going to be over here. On the supports tab, we have our wood generator button. And when we hit the wood generator, there's a few different build modes, a whole bunch of styles. I'm going to be talking about all these pieces in just a second. But for now, we're going to go with the build mode right now. We're not ready to generate the final supports, which are going to be where the system's going to process every single one of those beams and put them in place for you at this point. We don't want to do that. For now, we just want to go ahead and go with one of the preview styles. Preview simple quality is just going to show you a basic wireframe of the support structure. Preview final quality will do the same, but it's also going to cut holes in the track if you have any track going over other track, which becomes very important. That's the whole collision detection here. That's why I said it only affects final build modes. What's the difference between when you might want to do one of these versus the other? The final build quality, it's doing collision detection, and that's going to end up take some extra processing power. If your computer is struggling a little bit, you can turn that off until you really need it. So for now, though, I will go with the preview final quality. And you can see that now we are drawing wooden support structure. Now these are not real beams. You'll see that if I actually freeze the track here, which I haven't made any color choices here, so it's going to be white, but that's okay. Once it is done, you're going to see that the structure, the structure actually did show up. Didn't used to do that. Interesting, didn't know how to do that. Okay, so anyways, it's going to be uneditable like that, but at least it does show there. So you can kind of see the point of this. And the cool thing now is that when I move things around, yeah, No Limits 1, it didn't do that. Cool. All right, so now as I move various pieces around, you can see that it's going to take the wooden support structure with it. This is especially important if I'm going to be doing things like crossing under the structure, you know, shaping hills, doing all kinds of fun stuff of just dragging nodes around and making a nice, fun, exciting ride. Here, I can turn my speed cone back on to see just how forceful that's going to be. How strong is that? That's going to be a pretty sharp airtime hill. Neat. So just putting together a nice little simple wooden coaster. But you can see as I move things around that it's automatically moving the wooden structure around as well. You know, bend it around, the structure is following. So it's a good way to see exactly what you're going to be building with the wooden support structure. And more importantly, very useful if you're going to try and do things like lining up the structure right next to itself, which is something, of course, that's very commonly done in a lot of wooden coasters, where the coaster track just kind of follows itself along. And that way, actually, in real wooden coasters, they do share the structure quite a bit. So add a few more vertices here just to kind of finish up the layout. And to demonstrate this, I'll just go ahead and snuggle right up next to the lift hill. And I'll make that into a few hills. Station's coming up, so I'll veer off to the side. I'm not going to finish it quite yet because I want to do another thing first. So let's do a few of those. Let's just add some hills to make it exciting. And I don't care too much quite yet, and I'm going to be able to make good use of the make straight 2D function to straighten these hills out. So I don't care that they're not really lining up at the moment. That's okay. That's fine. So just throwing together some nice airtime hills here, and we'll get a few more pieces in place. You're going to have a ton of speed. Wooden coasters tend to keep a lot more speed than their steel counterparts, and our friction settings are set accordingly. If you've got No Limits 2 Pro, you are able to customize your friction values if you so choose, which can come in handy depending on what you're trying to build. We recommend not doing that as much unless you really are sure about what you're trying to accomplish, because most of the structures are... We've come up with some pretty good default values for all of that. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to carefully look and line everything up so that I can line up those footers together, so I can really get that look of the coaster kind of like sharing its structure, which is always a fun thing to do. There's the other section I need to move over. Get it, there we go. Get that one. This is again why I didn't really care earlier that I didn't have the, that I was just kind of rapidly throwing the hills together. Not as big a deal because that whole wonderful make straight 2D function, now they're all in a straight line. Cool. And once I've done that, I can see that one of these guys doesn't line up, so this one's a little bit further in. So move that a little bit more. And then I'll redo the make straight 2D command so that I can make sure that everything lines up. Those footers are kind of on top of each other. Just again for the whole look of the structure kind of sharing itself there. There we go. And reselect everything. Get that one there. And there. And we got one more. Nope, I missed one in there. There it is. Straight 2D top, there you go, and it looks like the one over here is now off kilter slightly. It's okay. This is the one right here, so move it over slightly. There we go. I want this guy moved over the same amount. Okay, 1, 2, bear with me here, just lining everything up. Okay, so we'll go ahead and make straight 2D top that one again. Okay, so now when we look at it in 2D, you're going to see that these are very much lined up right next to each other, so we get that good whole effect of being right on top of it. Just need to add some rolls in here for that churn. Strict for now. just kind of breezing through this. So you can see I'm using a lot of the stuff that I taught you guys in previous courses on how to do all that. Get the speed come out of the way for now. Let's use the no-lat G-force. Should make it easy to go through these turns and just kind of quickly whip them into shape. No-lat G-force there. Same with you here, no-lat G-force. I don't know why it decided it wanted to bank outward. That is not the direction that should be going. Sometimes it gets confused. I've never been certainly certain why, but we'll go ahead and add a roll down here. I'll just set to strict, and that might straighten it out. Nope. Okay, so did you try the other way, silly? Alright. Nope, it really wants to go the other direction, doesn't it? Okay, that'll be good enough. Okay, so there we go. Alright, now you can see that we have everything here. We are cutting through the bottom section here, but you can see that there are supports missing. This is where it's already showing you how it's going to be cutting a hole through the structure for that coaster. So if I go ahead and freeze it from here, you'll see that it is in fact going to be cutting the hole there. And there you go. Nice hole cut through there, plenty of clearance. And then when we get over here, we're going to see that everything does look nice and lined up. Okay, so what's going on here? Anybody could give me an idea as to why there's a whole chunk of supports missing right here? Anybody else? Okay, it does take a few minutes, a few moments for everything to move through. We'll wait to see if anybody has an answer to any of that. Collision detection too close. You are absolutely right. So the collision detection is popping in there. And realizing that we have an issue there. I do apologize, it appears that my music has decided to stop playing for some reason, and even though it is showing that it is playing, it's decided to actually stop coming through. So I don't know exactly why. I do apologize, so that it's going to be kind of quiet for the rest of the broadcast. So I do see some suggestions from people about moving it a few inches off to the side, and that should work. You are correct. That would work. However, I do like the fact that it is kind of really close by, because I want to get that look of it kind of right on top. That is actually a little too close. You guys are right. But there's a way that you can force that to still show up in place. Because there are some times where you don't want it to automatically carve large chunks of it out of there. So the way that you would do that is through our style settings once again. So it'll be easiest to demonstrate on the lift hill section here, since we have a separate section. Is that you can go for the supports on individual sections. Bring up the wood generator here. For the collision detection, you can actually go through and build only certain sections of it at a time. So right now it's going to build for the entire, actually it's going to be, let me go ahead and disable that. So I want to see the preview here, but I only want to show for that section. No, it's going to do the whole thing. There is a way that you can, if I can remember correctly, how you can build for just one particular section of track, which I am blanking on right now. So you can actually choose to only build the final section for the selected section of track here. Let's try that. Nope, built the whole thing. Clearly generated. I apologize that I am blanking on how to do it so that it's only going to build one particular section. It's because the global settings, that's what it is. Because I know I've done this in the past, and I do apologize that I'm blanking on this. I should be showing you guys as the expert on how to do this. There is a way to only build one particular section of the track. So I believe it is in the style settings, as you guys are correct. Yes, it is there. No, there it is, the wood support generator, just for that. Individual settings for that particular section of track. Thank you very much. I knew I was blanking on where we put it. So I can undo the collision detection on that particular section of track, and then when we go build the whole support section here, and we're going to build that everywhere. All right, nope, didn't go there. Generator, generate the final. There we go. And now we should have everything in place. Person is asking if there's any place to see the previous lessons. Yes, they are all on YouTube. We do upload them once we are done. There we go. And now you can see that all those wooden support beams are back in place. And then here under the section of the drop, that's where you can, that section has not been told for individual settings. So very important there that you can see that. So that's the way that you can force it to build the sections anyways. And you can do a whole bunch of other useful things like that, including if you wanted to build a section of track that was going to be covered or completely inside of the structure without having a whole bunch of the structure disappear. You can force it to build anyways and manually delete the beams that you don't want to go with. And I figured out the music issue is actually the volume on my own headset. I blame the cough medicine, Dayquil combined with cold and a bunch of other things that are causing my brain to be addled this morning. So, do apologize for everybody there. But you can see a few different things. So there's one other thing I wanted to point out to you guys, because of course this is very useful here for how to create these beams. There's another little trick I like to do when it comes to bridging gaps like this, because on real coasters this section of wood isn't going to be very sturdy for crossing that kind of a gap. Because in real life there's going to be, you know, the wood isn't going to be good for covering the gap. So, and this is actually a little bit too low, so I'm going to be getting rid of a couple of beams here. Focus on this upper area here. In real life, what wooden coaster companies do to bridge a gap like that is they span it with steel. So there's some steel beams, I-beams that are covering the gap. This is very easy to do in No Limits 2. All you have to do is just find where your gap is, the roof of it, like here, say this beam, this beam, this beam. Not that one, that beam, that beam, that beam, get that beam. Get an extra run on each side just so that it kind of overlaps a bit. Make it extra long so you guys can see it. So I've selected a beam that's going to go across the top on both sides there. And then the supports, we're going to go ahead and get into the supports panel for those ones. What I'm going to do is, instead of its current setting, which is actually a wooden beam, I'm going to go down here, drop it into the, say the, which one do I want to go with? 6x6 will be fine, and actually give it a little bit more height, so I'll give it 1 foot for the height, and that'll be fine. So I've just changed it to a I-beam, and then when I freeze it, you're going to see that it looks a little bit better. Just waiting for it to freeze here. There you go. So that gives you the effect of having that steel structure that is what would actually bridge the gap. I could actually make that a little bit taller if I wanted to. But that's a quick and easy way to make that gap look a lot more realistic, because you wouldn't have a kind of a more flimsy piece of wood trying to hold up all that weight above it. Instead, you would have a much more rigid section of steel. So that's how you do that. Very easy little trick there. One other thing I'm going to point out to you guys, and actually we're going to end up having to clear the everything here on the supports. There's a button over here, by the way. You can hit this button of clear generated supports to get rid of all of the generated wooden coaster supports in one shot, like this. Bing, there they all go. So in case you needed to redo it all, that's what you would want to do. So going back to our friend, the style section, we can do a few different things here with the wooden coaster supports. So track, I'm going to add a few style sections in here, because there's a few options for the wooden coaster supports that are also related to the support or the stress on the structure. So I'm going to put one here, put one down here, and then I'll have the churn as one and nut as well. Okay. Okay, so I've set up a few style segments here, which will get you a little bit better view. And I'm going to go into each of these individual style segments and change a few properties. You can change the spacing of the bents for the wooden coaster. What are bents? Bents on a wooden coaster are the vertical support structures on that one. So the vertical support structures are going to be each particular tree that leads up to that particular spot is called a bent. Depending on the stress and speed and a few other things at that particular point in the track, bends can be various, they can be set at various densities, and we've consulted with an actual coaster manufacturer to find out the exact settings that they use. We have come up with 3 different styles here. So we're going to do in the wood support generator section here, we're going to go with an individual setting for this one. Bent spacing, this section we're doing at the bottom of this particular drop. There's going to be a lot of speed involved, so I want to bring it from 9 feet, which is the widest they go, down to 4.5 feet, which is the closest together that they get in real life. So we're going to do that for that section here. This section can go back to normal. I'm going to put this one back to wood support generator. We're going to go down to individual settings here, also of 4.5 feet. And then up there should be fine. For the turn, I'm going to set 6.5. Wood support generator here. There we go. And 6.5. There we go. And let's go ahead and render that out. Actually, the supports. We're going to go ahead and see what that looks like. And there you go. Now you can see here in this section where I defined it as the bent spacing at 4.5 feet. You can see that each of those bents are much closer together. In the segment just prior to that, they're much further apart. Same kind of thing about setting the cross tie spacing and setting the spine thickness on other types. It depends on how fast it's going at that point, how much stress the track is going to be under. And on wooden coasters, they put the bents much closer together so that you can better support and deal with the forces you're dealing with. So let's go ahead and freeze that. Let's see what's going on. Okay, and then you can see there we are. We have that section where they're much closer together for much more robust support, much further apart, which is fine for lift hills and low stress areas of track. But you'll find on the valleys of wooden coasters when they're, the wood will deflect over time. That's how you get potholes and rough spots in wooden coasters, that it does bend and flex. So to help counter that, they get the bends much closer together. The wooden coaster structure builder is doing a whole lot of things for you, including building these bent structures. It's building the ledgers, which are these horizontal beams. It's building the ribbons, which are the handrails up here. The ribbons are the diagonals. The posts are the vertical pieces of wood here. These are all based on the way that actual lumber yards cut their actual pieces of wood and the size of lumber that's really used for these various parts of the wooden structure. So it doesn't get much more realistic than this, including these diagonals here that are all in place. All very useful to have. So that's a little bit more on how to use the wooden coaster structure. I'm going to show you guys one other thing that you might run into, which is going to be, this is all well and good if you're building a wooden coaster, and you can use the collision detection to make sure that it can cut a hole for itself. What happens if you have other coasters going through there? They have different types entirely. How do you make sure that it can cut a hole for those ones? Well, there's a pretty easy trick to do. I'm going to go ahead and unfreeze that. First of all, to demonstrate, I'm going to go over to the style demo coaster here. And I'm going to bring it around so that it is going to intersect with part of our coaster structure here. So I'm going to bring this around here. And that support structure is getting all messed up right now, which is okay. Okay, so now we've got another coaster that's going through the wooden coaster here. The wooden coaster builder is only going to detect its own track. It has no idea of other coasters that are in your scene. So it has really no clue as to whether or not it needs to cut a hole for anything other than its own track, as each of the coasters are already on their own. So how do we do that? And Coaster Fan 312 is exactly correct on how you do that. You put an invisible piece of track for the other coaster track. So I'll freeze that one there. Switch back to my wooden coaster track. You can do a lot with invisible sections of track. So what we need to do is carve a hole for this coaster to go through. The way we're going to do that here is we're going to add some invisible track. I'm going to go ahead and add a new section of track here, a new start vertex. Boom, boom, just to get it in the neighborhood. Need to get it about the same height, which it is because I last selected those particular elements. And you can see it's already carving the hole that's going to be needed for that, which is particularly handy. Now, of course, I don't want to have this section of wooden track shown because that's just going to add this extra extra structure we don't need. So how do we get rid of that? It's going to go back to the style setting. First of all, I'm going to make an indivisible segment, wooden support generator. We're going to go to the individual settings and then uncheck enable supports. So what'll all that do when we're all done? Freeze that. And there you go. It is carving a hole. Now, of course, wooden coaster supports, it's considering that the wooden coaster is on top of the track up. It went ahead and built the handrails also, so let's go ahead and get that taken care of. There we go. So you got to undo it's building all of this stuff here. So let's check all those sections there, and now it's going to be completely gone. There you go. So, wooden coaster section is gone. Remember, it is only going to carve a section that's above it, not below it. If you needed to make it extra wide, if you have a dive machine going through, just keep running sections of visible track through there to carve a big enough hole as needed. And that's all you have to do. Pretty simple. Now, each of these particular sections of support here, the supports themselves, if they are inside of a tunnel, there is an extra flag that you have available to them, so you can set the support to be, let's see, I'm just going to generate the final here. Hang on just a moment, guys. I'm going to go ahead and generate the final. There we go. Get our final supports in place, and now they're all individual supports, kind of like when they're no longer a prefab. It is now all editable. What you can do with these supports now, they can be set to be, there's a new option in here for dim as if it was in a tunnel. Very handy if you're putting this underground. You need to have all these things like the catwalks and everything inside of a tunnel. That option is now there. Before, this is something that's fairly recent also, is that you couldn't actually dim some of the sections of the supports to make it look like they're inside of a tunnel. So I'll just grab a chunk of supports here and make these all show up like they're in a tunnel. There we go. Now we'll go ahead and freeze that. And there we are. It's not that those are gray, those are acting as if they are in a tunnel. So any supports, if you're putting it, supports now that are inside of a cavern or a show building of some sort, now you can get the supports to also show up just as dark as everything else that's inside of that tunnel. So it's not getting, and by dimmed as if it's inside of a tunnel, it's not getting light from the sun. Not much light, at least. So there you go. There's a little bit more on the wooden coaster supports. The only thing left to show you guys is going to be the different kinds of wide supports. There's a few different wide supports that we have here. I'll go ahead and demonstrate that on this top section here. Oops, now we're going to have to do it this way. So, generated wooden generator. So we're going to go ahead and preview file. So the simple structure is no wide structure. That means it's just the vertical. Nothing else other than what's directly below it. We have steeple as one particular style here, which is one way to get extra wide. So you can see here what the structure looks like. I'll go ahead and freeze that so you guys can see it. So that's what the steeple section looks like as soon as it finishes rendering all those extra wide beams. So that way it kind of holds up the extra width from the top. This is loosely based on GCI style of wooden support structures. And all this wide support structure will follow your track as it goes around, so that way you can get a nice wide section like that. This is one particular style that you can do. Alright, not too bad. So we'll go ahead and unfreeze that, and we'll change it over and show you guys the next one here, Cathedral. It's a little bit different in how it works. This is kind of more of the CCI style. So as it gets taller, it adds these stair steps in as it gets higher and higher and higher. And those are automatically added as you get bigger. We'll go ahead and show you guys what that one looks like. The actual technical term for these sections of support structure that stick out to the side, it's actually called batting. I don't know why, that's just what it's called. So there you go. This is the cathedral style, so you can see that it kind of pops off to the side. As you get higher and higher, it keeps adding extra layers, which can, sometimes it might get wider than you want it to get. That's okay. It's easy to go through and just delete a whole swath of it. Like I only wanted it to go 2 wide, not 3 wide. Easy enough to do. Once I go to the support panel here, in the wooden generator, I'll tell it to go ahead and generate the final ones. Now those are all editable, and I can take all this, get rid of it in one shot, and freeze it, and there we go. Very easy to do. Now you can also use the style settings throughout the track, and you can specify that you only want to have the wide structures to show up on the left or the right side of the track. That is very easy to do as well. I'll demonstrate in just a second here, so you can actually clear the structure as well. There's supports, clear generated. So I can say that I want to have for, I need the styles pattern here, style settings, there you go. With support generators, I can say that I only want to have it, the wide supports on, say, the left and not the right. So when I do that, and I go to my supports here, with generator, we'll go ahead with the final quality there. You can see that it's only building them off to the right for the lift hill section, not on the left. Because that style segment ends here, then it starts building the wide supports again after that. Let's go ahead and show you guys the last of the wide supports here. In the wood generator, we have the chapel style. So chapel style, it's kind of a hybrid between the two where it gets a little bit wider. You'll see what that looks like when we freeze that. Has its uses as well. Now the width structure is going to be the same throughout the entire track. It's going to build the same thing all the way through your entire coaster, and that's okay as well, depending on what you need out of it. There's a few different ways to go about it. You can always tell the entire, using the style settings, you can tell the entire coaster not to build any wooden coaster structure, and they'll build sections of it at a time, which would then allow you to change the width structure style as you go along. So different kinds of styles here, based on a few different types of real-life wooden coaster supports. Everybody's wondering, no, we don't have RMC in there yet. Yes, we all are aware that you really, really want it. We know. RMC is more than just the coaster train and the track. The support structure is going to need a lot of work to make sure that it can automatically build all those beams to handle the weird inversions that it's going to that you guys are going to throw at it. So there's more work to be done there. We do have it on our radar. It's something that we are well aware that exactly when and how that's all going to be enabled. Couldn't tell you when. And as usual, we don't talk about the things that we're going to be putting in there until those features are ready to go and we're putting them out. Because we don't want to promise something that we may not be able to deliver. We also don't want to give a time frame that we may not be able to meet, and a few other things like that. So bear with us while we go through all our development, and trust us, everything that we put out, you guys are going to love. We are going to make sure that we do it right. Okay, so that's enough about wooden coaster supports, and we showed a few other things. There's one other thing I'm going to quickly show you guys here before we get to the camera track, which is going to be adding, and actually, you know what, I'll show switches and transfer tracks another day. They're pretty straightforward, so we'll go ahead and leave that one alone. For now, we're going to go ahead and set up the camera track and show you guys how to use that. And this is a really cool feature that you can use to come up with all kinds of cool video effects. So to do that, I'm going to leave this park behind. I'm going to open up one of my own parks that I built. And this is going to be down here. So this is one of the parks that came with it. Wilderness Park. This is one of the first coasters I ever put together. And this is the first one I finished, and I don't know why it's unfrozen. I'll go ahead and get that together here. What we're going to do here is I'm going to show you guys how to use the camera track script. These are things that are built into the game, and everybody has the ability to use them whenever they want, and they're very easy to use. I'm going to let everybody know in advance, I am not a scripter or a coder. I do not have, why are those support? Okay, it's going to run a second. I do not know how to write these scripts from scratch. It's just not my specialty. Kevin is better at it. Ole, of course, is a master programmer. Now, we understand that these scripts are not, creating the script from scratch, I can't do. However, I can do editing of a script. A properly set up script has a few different variables that you would want to manipulate, and these variables are easy to get to, and they're visible at the top of the script. So here's Wilderness Park. I'm going to want to do some cool camera moves and run around this park as we go through here. First thing I needed to get set up for is I got to actually set up my camera track. So let's go ahead and get that in there. So to do that, I'm going to add a new coaster, and I usually like to call it camera. Now, for the coaster properties, for the camera track, you don't want any trains on it. Otherwise, if there are trains on it, you're going to get an error right at the beginning that says, can't place all of the trains, add a block, and etc., etc., etc. So I'm going to set the number of trains to 0. Okay, so now at this point, I just have to place the camera track around. This is going to be the path the camera is going to follow around the park. So I do that the same way I do anything in the game. I'm just going to add any other track. I'm going to add a start vertex here. We'll start it off about, I'll start it here. And I'm just going to, randomly scatter some around just to see what we come up with. So I'm just kind of carving a general path around the layout. A few things like that. Loop around here. Oops, didn't want to put that one there. Crossover. And that'll be good enough there. Oops. Nope, I want that one there. And then I'll take these two here, connect them together. Okay, so I've very roughly and quickly put together the the track layout for that one. I can go through and do a number of things like adjusting the height of various vertices as I go along, just so they can add some extra dimension to it, make the shot more interesting. A few things like that. I can set up specific flybys, and if I'm really patient about the timing, I can do that as well. Just trying to set a few things here. And of course, you can depump this track as well. You can add roll to it. There's a few different things. So the first thing I'm going to do is just show you how to kind of get everything placed and get you started with it. Get that in place there. Okay, so this is the basic path the camera is going to follow. And before I start fixing too many more things about it, I'll just kind of show you guys more about what you need to do to get set up with it. So I'm just adding a little bit of variety in terms of some height and other things like that to the layout. Okay, good enough. So what we're going to do now is set the whole track to an invisible segment. Actually, not yet. I do need to put the camera by it first. The other thing you need to be able to make the camera track work is you need the camera itself. I'll show you where to find that. Go under Scenery. So we're going to choose the Scenery object. It is in the library under Demo Objects. And you're going to see the first thing that we're interested in here, the external track camera. You just have to add it near some coaster track. And that's basically it. So I'm going to add it right about here where we started that. There's my little external track camera. It just has to be somewhat near the cut track you're going to want it to follow. It will find any track that it's near and it will follow that. So you want to put it near the track you actually want it to follow. Doesn't have to be precise, doesn't even have to be aimed in the right direction. That's all going to be handled in the script. But that way it's just there. Okay, now I can go to my track and I can, the coaster track, I can freeze it so it disappears. And I actually have to set it to invisible first, then it disappears. Again, cold beds, they're fun. There we go. Alright, so there you go. Music a little loud. Yeah, some of these songs are a little louder than others. Okay, there we go. So now we're in place. Everything's ready to go. I'll go ahead and save this here. There's a few properties that you can set inside the track, but I just wanted to show the basics of getting it set up for the camera script here. So we'll go ahead and leave the editor there. And one of these guys is unhappy because I don't have the targets in place. That's okay. I'm going to show that later. All you have to do to get the camera going now, the script is there, the track path is there, which we have it hidden. You just have to get near it, and you saw the message pop up when I got near it, so you press E to enter the camera. When you do that, that's it. So it's doing all the work for us. Now you notice it's looking in a particular direction the whole way through. The reason why it's looking in this direction is that that's what's been specified in the script. There's a few different options that you can do in the way that it's going. You can either manually control where you want it to look. You can set a specific point in the map that it's going to look at. Or, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, there's a target you can drop off that it will automatically go through and look at various targets as it moves through the layout. And you can adjust a few different things, including the speed at which it goes through and a number of other factors. We recommend the free program Notepad++ to edit the script. Again, you don't need to be a programmer or expert with scripting to be able to do it. All you have to do is just go through and edit a few text variables, and you're good to go by just entering some numbers. And again, I'm not a programmer myself. I wouldn't be able to write this script at all, but I can change a few numbers in it and hit save, which is all you got to do to be able to set things up. And all the hard work's been done for you ahead of time. So now you notice that it is looking at that one particular spot, which is somewhere right about here on the map, and that's okay. I'm going to show you more about how to have it look elsewhere. In the meantime, while you are going around the script, you can look around all you want. You can look everywhere you want to look to see where all over the place. And later in your video editing program, you can smooth this movement out. If you want to know more about it, ask Justin Clark, but there's some values you can take your hand done motions like this and straighten them out and do a few things like that. But what if you want to do some of those cool shots where it automatically looks at various points along the way? How do you do that? Well, let me show you that. Let's head back into the editor. So now I'm going to go ahead and bring the track back around so you can see it. The other thing that's part of the camera script that makes it really cool is these guys. And also in the library, under demo objects, you go a little bit further down, we have simple target. And this is going to be used in conjunction with the camera script. So I'm going to add a few of these guys. The idea is these ones is that they're adding specific places and targets to look at throughout the coaster, throughout the park. And it will automatically look at the nearest target and switch to the next target as it gets there. So I've just added a few in here. It should be good enough for demonstration purposes. Now the targets have to have a specific name, and this is actually something you can configure in the script. So what I'm going to do now, I can't show you Notepad++, unfortunately, because it's because it is actually something that is another program. Due to the software I'm using to broadcast everywhere, it's not going to be able to, I can't show you exactly what Notepad++ looks like because it won't let me show that to you. But what I can do is I can bring in the top part of the script here so you can actually see it, and I'll discuss all the various features that are available here. Okay, so this is a section of the script straight out of Notepad, where I've copied it from Notepad++. A well set up script, like most of the ones that we have in place, have included things like this section at the top, this constants with this // The // means that this is not part of the code, but it's giving you instructions on what you can do. So the top one here, the warp point range for the external camera, is going to be basically how close you need to be to a target to switch where you are. Changing that number, making it bigger, means that it'll detect the next target when it's within that many. I believe it's going to be meters, and it'll switch to it. So whichever one's closer. The next thing, the speed of the camera along the track, it's set in meters per second. The higher the number, the faster you go along the track. That's it. It's going to be a very straightforward. It's going to be it's going to be a set speed the entire way through. It won't get faster or slower. It'll just kind of cruise along at that set speed. Now, this next one is the offset relative to the track. So do you want to have it, the Y value is going to be up, the Z value is going to be forward a little bit, X is going to be left and right. I've never modified those, but if you wanted to specifically offset where the camera's location is in relation to where that physical camera was, you can change it there. And for some reason it's in here twice. Okay, there's the track. Yep, they're in there twice for some reason. I don't know why, but that's there. I'll let you tell me more about it. Hide the camera when the camera is in use. Yes, that's going to be fine. Leave that as true, which of course that means that when you go into it, it's going to disappear, so you don't have the orange object. Hide the targets, those little target options. When the camera is in use, same thing. True means that all those little orange boxes will disappear. Automatically look at some specified position, probably yes. So if you set true, then that means yes, it will look at a specific position, which you can go with a specific spot on the map by setting the X, Y, and Z coordinates if there are no target objects. There you go. So that's why it was looking at that one specific point. There were no target objects in there, and it was looking at 0, 0, 0 on the map, which when you take a look at where 0, 0, 0 is on the map, there it is, and that, of course, is the exact spot we were looking at the whole time. If I set the I could set it over here or here, and then no matter where the camera flies, it's always going to look at that one particular spot of the map, which comes in handy. So we'll get back in here. The other setting in here that's important when it comes to using the targets is going to be the next one here. The script name, you can leave that alone. On that one, you don't have to change it. The prefix for the targets, this is where it's important. So the prefix is going to be target. Notice that it's capitalized with nothing after. Now this is saying that when you're going and looking for the target objects, they need to be given the name that starts with target with a capital T. You can change this. You can have it say, corn dog. So the objects would have to start with corn dog, or you can say whatever you want, blue orb or orange box, whatever you want to put in there. But that means you have to name every single one of your targets with that particular name. It defaults to target. That's fine. The last setting here that you'd want to change would be this one here, which is the morph time, which is going to be how long it takes in seconds to change from looking at one target to the next target when it's closer to another target. So we know that all the objects need to be named target, and then other things after that won't matter, and everything else is fine. So we'll go ahead and leave all those settings as they are. You change the settings again in another program such as Notepad++, and then save it when you're done. I can't change the setting there and change it because that's just the text for the park description. But I have it in Notepad++. So what I do want to do, I got to change these target names. So I can double click the target, add in target, and then 0 for the first one. Hit apply, otherwise it won't take that name. Close that window. I put the second one over here. Double click it, there we go. See, if I just type in target 1, and then I close the window, you'll notice that it did not save it. Then hit apply. There we go. And the last one I placed was over here. There it is. Okay, good. They've all been named. They're all in place. And I can go through the map here, and I can also change their height and their location, because this is going to change where they are and how I look at them the whole way through. There we go. Let's move this one up high. And the last one is over there. That should be good. All right, so now we just gotta take the camera track again and freeze it so that it goes away. There we go. We're gonna save. I'm gonna leave the editor. We're gonna go ahead and hit play. I'm still getting errors for some reason, probably because it's because I have a preview image that's not in place. We'll get out of there. Camera track is visible. The targets, I believe you can see them. They haven't hidden yet because I haven't engaged the script yet. Did they? Nope, they've already been hidden. That's okay. The camera waits for you. Press E to enter it. There we go. And now that one was the first one it detected. Now it's detecting this one as the closest one, so it's going to keep looking over here. It's going to keep looking at this one until it detects that there's another one that it's closer to. And when it detects another one that it's closer to, it will go ahead and switch over to look at that one. It'll take about 3 seconds. There, 1, 2, and 3. There it goes. If you make that value longer for the number of seconds to warp, if you made it say 10 seconds, then it would take 10 seconds to change from looking at one to the next. If you made it shorter, it'd snap over there really quickly. And that's basically it. It's just changing the variables and messing around a little bit, moving the track around some, and experimenting to see what you end up with. A lot of the cool shots that we've done in our promotional videos that's all it's been, is just this camera script, a little bit of trial and error, and some timing, and that's it. If you remember the one take video that we did, that was a really long setup, but that's all it was just one long camera script and some targets, and a whole lot of patience and timing to get that set up just right. And you can end up with all kinds of really, really cool shots because of it. So this is where I recommend just try it out and play with it, and you can come up with some really neat stuff. And these kinds of things are very easy to do. The other beautiful thing that we have when it comes to No Limits that a lot of people don't necessarily realize is that our built-in video capture. I've got a pretty strong PC here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage the video capture for just a moment. And you're going to see right here, I'm going to turn on the video capture now. Okay, so you notice that a couple of things have just changed. The video capture settings I have set right now, I've set for 1080p with 60 frames a second. I've also added a lot of motion blur processing. Notice how slow everything is going right now. Why is it going so slow when everything was very fluid? Well, the reason why is because there's a few things going on right now. I've told it that with the setting I want it to be 60 frames a second and 1080p and with a high motion blur sample rate, which is all some of the pro features that are there. So what's going is that it's calculating each of those 60 frames per second as it goes along, and it's also calculating the motion blur for each of those ones, where it's actually sampling, and I think I've got it at 24 times. So it takes a while to render each of those frames. The end result, though, even though this is chugging along very, very slow, is that I'm going to have a perfect 60 frame per second 1080p video when I'm all done. Whatever setting I set it at, I'm going to get that perfect setting. So even if I had a really terrible computer that could only run this park at 20 frames a second at its best, I could get a 1080p 60 frames a second video out of it using the built-in video capture. It's the same exact method that is used with the real render companies like Pixar are using. The stuff that they're rendering for their final films aren't possible to show in real time with all the detail and the textures and everything. And those frames can take a long time to process each of them. They'll have a shot that renders for a day because it's just got so many things going on in it. But when it's all rendered, it'll play back at the right speed. So people that have been using other video capture things like Bandicam and everything like that, that is capturing whatever is happening on your screen, however well your computer can process it. Our video capture, on the other hand, will take as much time as it needs for every single one of those frames, and it'll give you a perfectly rendered video file when you're all done. And I'm going to go ahead and edit this into the live broadcast so you can see this particular this section of video and how it turned out after the fact, at the end of the live instructional broadcast when we're all set up and finished. So I'll go ahead and turn off the video capture at this point by hitting O one more time, and now we're back to full-time render graphics. So we're coming to the end of our time here. I want to thank everybody for joining. I can take a couple of questions, so if you have a question for me, go ahead and start typing, and we'll go ahead and see what I can do to help answer you guys' questions. Go ahead. That's a cool shot right there. So the camera script is very easy to use, very powerful, very neat. So many cool things can be done with it. And we do have some even more advanced versions of the camera scripts that we're working on internally. They're a little less user-friendly to use, but they can do quite a lot. So for those, I did see that somebody was asking what my computer is. I do have an i7 4 gigahertz quad-core processor. I've got a pair of GTX 970s in SLI mode, which is certainly fun to run with. And I've got 32 gigs of RAM. It's a little overkill, but I use it for testing purposes for No Limits and also for building a bunch of other stuff too. So we'll see if we have any additional questions here. Last second here, if you have something that you'd like to bring up, now's your chance. It takes about 20 seconds between when I speak for when the questions pop up in the chat room. So we'll just enjoy some of the footage of the coaster going around here at the end. We'll see if anybody else has a question. By the way, in your camera script, I completed the circuit so it actually connects all the way through to the end, and I didn't add any roll track, which is why some of the tracks or any roll nodes, why some of the tracks are a little bit, shots are a little tilted. You can leave the track open, which once it hits the end of the track, it just stops. So there you go. So why can't I record 4K footage in full HD? Well, you can if your monitor can display 4K. That's the only drawback, is that the screen resolution has to match what you're trying to capture. So if you don't have a 4K resolution monitor that you're running No Limits on, you won't be able to capture 4K. That's the only restriction. I did upgrade my TV. I've got a 4K TV, so I can actually start doing some video capture on there. My poor laptop will hate me for it, but I can actually go ahead and do that. So what's the best way to upgrade to Pro while still using the Steam version? Simple. Go to our website, nolimitscoaster.com, purchase the upgrade option, In the Steam version, you can click on Info, and there's a button there to upgrade. Enter in the Pro key that you get when you purchase it from us, and it will unlock all of the Pro features for your Steam version as well. If you already have the Pro version of No Limits installed and you get the Steam version from us, which you can if you just email our support team, nolimits@nolimitscoaster.com, all of the Pro features will be unlocked for your Steam version as well. All the Pro features are there inside of Steam. You just need to have a Pro key for it to work, which you can get from us directly from us. We don't sell the Pro key on Steam itself. We only sell it direct from our website. But you can get it direct from us, and it will unlock all those same Pro features on your Steam version, even if you only bought the first one from Steam. There you go. Is there any way to add the water splash effects to other coasters? For the example, the Wing Coaster, you can add it in there, but right now the water splash script that we've included is only configured to detect 2 different types of coasters right now. It's configured for the 2 coasters that come with scoops on them, which is going to be the V staggered seating train that has scoops and the dive machine that has scoops. So it'll detect which coaster style you're using, and it'll make the splash happen for that particular style. On that one. It will take some other custom scripts to add splashes for other types. We haven't built them because we only have 2 in there that use the water scoops, and those are the ones that made sense for that. Let's see what we have here. Someone else asked how many in the roundup. We have hit 40 entries, and they're still rolling in. So we're looking forward to see what everything that's going to happen with Roundup 100. And yes, Coaster X is one of the ones owned by us on the No Limits team. It's just one that we can very quickly configure for our needs. Okay, that is going to do it for today. I want to thank everybody once again for joining us here. And for the live webinar, we'll go ahead and come up with some additional topics and hold some of these again in the future. Again, we're looking for some other subject matter experts that can go into some more of the advanced topics that things that No Limits can do, such as texturing and terrain editing and things like that. We'll see if we can have anybody else join on here. I'm going to have... In the future, we'll schedule one where we can talk about all the fancy texture options that are there and all the very powerful tools that are available for that. We'll also dive deeper into some of the scripting and some of the best practices for doing things like adding sound to your coasters and going into additional features there, which we'll see how we go with that one. Those will all be for future topics, though, for another day. For now, thank you very much once again for playing No Limits and building and making your dreams come true and bringing your imagination to life. We certainly appreciate everything that everybody's done. Hope everybody has a wonderful 2016 that's full of happiness and health, especially the health part. Don't get the cold I have. Hopefully I did not cough on anybody during the broadcast. Have yourselves a good 2016. We will meet again soon and discuss some additional cool features in No Limits. But for now, stay tuned for Roundup 100. We'll be releasing all of the winners on Wednesday, and it's going to be just spectacular to see all the final results for that one. So for that, signing off at this point, have yourselves a good afternoon and a wonderful day. Thanks for being fans of No Limits. Goodbye, everybody.